Alright, so this is for the subject investment and portfolio management. The topic is fundamental analysis, and we have here an article from investopedia.com. Alright, so previously na-discuss na natin yung about technical analysis. Yung technical analysis essentially, or more appropriately, mas madalas siyang ginagamit for short-term investments. Okay, yung day trading, or in a way kapag yung investor is merong time to monitor the market, the price movements. And of course, normally ginagamit lang is yung support and resistance level. Okay, and then of course, you buy kapag yung price ng isang stock ay andun sa support level, and then you try selling it kapag andun na siya sa what do you call it? Resistance level. Okay. But here in the fundamental analysis, medyo more in-depth siya. Kasi you need more information to analyze and to base your decisions on, or to base your decisions from. Okay? Dito sa fundamental analysis, kasama dito yung financial statement analysis, and then getting information on plans of the companies in the future. Normally, publicly available information naman yung ginagamit dito sa fundamental analysis. Okay? And then, of course, tinitingnan din dito yung, in a way, karamihan or yung bulk nito is yung financial statements analysis, and of course, computing for financial ratios that would provide information on how well the company is doing. Okay? But for newbie, beginner investors, normally, pag ginamitan mo ng fundamental analysis, normally yung mga blue chip companies natin, or yung mga companies na matagal nang in operation, kumbaga established na, no, may napatunayan na sa history ng kanilang operations. Sorry. And then, profitable naman in the last few years, in the last few decades. Maganda yung feedback from their current investors or current shareholders, or possibly creditors then, or suppliers then. Okay? So in that sense, normally, itong fundamental analysis, ginagamit to ng mga long-term investors. Kumbaga, what they really want to see is the possibility of growth, or the potential for growth nung isang company. Kasi nga long-term sila. Normally, kapag nag-invest sila today, although yes, karaniwan naman ng investors, they have to monitor their investment portfolio. Pero meron talagang mga investors din na they don't bother monitoring their portfolio. So, nangyayari, once they acquired certain investments, especially mga long-term, at wala na masyadong pakialam, or probably they're busy with something else. So, nangyayari, after few years na sa kanilang nila, i-check kung ano na naging performance ng kanilang investment in a particular company. Okay? But anyway, again, it's kind of subjective kasi you have different types of investors, and then they have different levels of understanding. They have different levels of expertise. So, for the most part, you really cannot tell kung ano yung magiging movement in the securities market, or in the investment market. Okay? Kasi sometimes yung behavior ng investor, it would depend on a lot of factors. You have your short-term ba or long-term investor yan. How did they, analyze the financial reports of certain companies? What other factors did they base their decisions from? So, maraming mga bagay. Okay? And what exactly are their goals? Ayan, makaka-affect din yun. Alright? Okay, so for this one, we're going to discuss fundamental analysis. Okay? So, yung fundamental analysis method of measuring a security's intrinsic value by examining related economic and financial factors. Okay? Yung intrinsic value, essentially parang siya, fair valuation currently ng isang company. And again, based on a number of factors, economic and financial factors. Okay, where are we? Fundamental analysts study anything that can affect the security's value from macroeconomic factors such as the state of the economy. Okay, currently, if the business or the main or the head office of the company is situated in an area na currently ay ECQ or NECQ, di ba merong mga in a way merong constraints on how on the scale of operations that they can conduct because of the pandemic, and in turn that would affect yung kanilang potential for profit kasi nga kung limited yung kanilang operations, then most likely nagiging limited din yung kanilang uh, profitability ng kanilang company. Okay? And then you have your other industry conditions to microeconomic factors like effectiveness of company's management. So ito naman internal, how well does the business utilize their financial resources or any other resource that they can use in generating profit. Okay. The end goal is to arrive at a number that an investor can compare with the security's current price in order to see whether the security is undervalued or overvalued. Okay, so in a way, yung CAPM, that's one way to know kung fairly valued ba or undervalued or overvalued yung isang security. Okay. This method of stock analysis is considered to be in contrast to technical analysis, which forecasts the direction of prices through an analysis of historical market data such as price and volume. Okay, normally, di ba, sa technical analysis, itingnan mo lang yung chart nung, let's say, last 3 months na movements ng prices ng isang company or, last 6 months. Depende sa'yo. And then, of course, you have to check kasa na yung kanilang resistance and support level. Okay, tapos normally, yun na kasi yung information lang doon ay about the prices of the company stock. Okay, nag-iingay ang aking pusa. Naglalaro ng kahon. Anyway, yeah. Key takeaways dito, fundamental analysis is a method of determining a stock's real or fair market value. Okay? Fundamental analysts search for stocks that are currently trading at prices that are higher or lower than their real value. O, diba? Hindi naman sinabi kung alin yung, which is actually good. Higher dapat or lower dapat. Kasi, it would depend on the perspective of the investor, kung ano bang gusto niyang mangyari sa kanyang buhay or sa kanyang investment portfolio. If the fair market value is higher than the market price, the stock is deemed to be undervalued and a buy recommendation is given. Okay? Kapag undervalued, ibig sabihin, there's a possibility na tumaas kasi yung price kasi undervalued. Okay? Ibig sabihin yung current price niya is mababa sa tunay na value niya. So, mas maganda kung bibilhin mo na siya ngayon kasi nga, yung real value niya, once investors or other parties to economic transactions realize na mas mataas pala dapat yung valuation nitong company na to, edi more likely than not, tataas yung market price niya. At kapag tumaas yung market price niya, edi, meron ng profit, unrealized profit yung investor. Okay? Kaya buy recommendation yung binibigay. In contrast, technical analysis ignore the fundamentals in favor of studying the historical price trends of the stock. When you think about it, yung technical analysis, mag-a-apply lang siya kapag, meron talagang, what do you call that? Visible pattern, yung isang company stock, okay? Pero, for the most part, meron din kasing company na you can't see a pattern dun sa kanilang chart of prices. So, in that case, you can't apply yung technical analysis. Ayan. And kung ganun, edi, if it's not applicable, edi wag mo nang i-apply. Okay? Huwag mo nang ipagpilitang gamitin yung technical analysis sa mga ganong types of stocks. Okay? Okay. And more, what do you call that? Probably for those types of stocks. If you can apply technical analysis on them and you still think that it's going to be a good investment, you want to analyze it more, then you can apply fundamental analysis instead. Okay. So meron dito understanding fundamental versus technical analysis. Okay, understanding fundamental analysis, all stock analysis tries to determine whether a security is correctly valued within the broader market. Okay, kumbaga yung proper valuation ang pinakang main point kung bakit ka nag-conduct ng fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is usually done from a macro to micro perspective. Okay, macro, edi pangkalahatan ng economy. Micro, edi yung, just the little things, pwedeng internal management or related parties to the business, kagaya ng mga supplier and then customers, okay? In order to identify securities that are not correctly priced by the market. Analysts typically study in order the overall state of the economy and then the strength of the specific industry before concentrating on individual company performance to arrive at a fair market value for the stock. Okay, so kumbaga pababa, macro level, ano yung current situation or economic situation ng bansa, overall performance ng karamihan ng mga companies. Okay, and then you have to consider yung industry specific na ginagalawan ng company. Okay, kasi of course you have to know overall sinasabayan ba niya yung kabuuan ng industry or opposite direction ba yung kanyang pinuntahan. Okay, and then of course yung ito nga strength of the specific industry, for example pandemic, 'di ba? Ano mga industries yung hindi nag-thrive. So you have your airlines, you have your hotels, 'di ba? Mga hindi nakapag-operate ng maayos because of the pandemic. But on the other hand, yung mga other industries na nag-thrive naman, tawag dito, naging maayos at lalo pa ngang nagkaroon ng growth yung kanilang business. And of course, you have your medical field, you have your mga online businesses, food delivery business. Of course, you have your online shopping platforms like Shopee and Lazada. Okay, so ayan, mga nag-thrive, mga nag-boom during the pandemic. Okay, so ayan na, after mong ma-analyze naman yung industry information, di pwede mo na ngayon siyang i-compare dun sa specific situation ng company na ina-evaluate mo ang valuation. Okay, so ano naging performance ng company? Okay, so let's say yung industry during the pandemic, although bumaba yung profitability, they are still profitable. Let's say 5%. Before pandemic, let's say 10%. Okay, but still, di ba, magandang, although lumiit yung kanilang profit rate, maganda pa rin kasi profitable pa rin naman sila. Okay, then for example, yung specific company is, let's say, 7% yung kanyang naging profit rate or profit margin. So that's actually a good one, di ba? Kasi mas mataas yung kanya naging performance compared to the industry na kinabibilangan niya. Okay? But if it's lower than the industry average, then kumbaga there are improvements that can be done para makasabay sa kung papaano gumagalaw yung industry as a whole. Okay? Fundamental analysis uses public data to evaluate the value of a stock or any other type of security. Okay, so karamihan naman kasi ng investors, di ba, general public, especially mga publicly traded na stocks or bonds, in existing exchanges or bond markets. Okay, so dito sa fundamental analysis, normally, yung mga data na ginagamit or information na ginagamit to evaluate the value of a stock, ay di public information then. Okay, on the part of trading platforms, di ba, yung mga financial institutions like banks, they do provide certain reports or analysis ng iba't ibang businesses included in the market. Okay, so baka din naman silang pinaprovide. And in a way, masasabi mo na unbiased and expert opinion yung kanila. Okay, kasi kumbaga wala silang tawag dito, self-interest conflict, with regards to that. But, of course, you cannot say din, baka kasi mamaya meron din. Okay. It's possible. It's possible. Alright, let's na tayo. For example, an investor can perform fundamental analysis on a bond's value by looking at economic factors such as interest rates and the overall state of the economy. Okay, so sa BFI, Banking and Financial Institutions na subject, so napag-aralan naman natin kung paano gumagalaw ang interest rates depending on the performance in the economy. Okay, to stimulate the economy, syempre mas nangyayari, binababaan ng interest rates para maraming mangutang, and yung availability ng funds in the hands of the people, kumbaga ginagamit nila to consume products and services, and in a way, yun, nag-circulate yung money in the market. Okay? Okay, pero in a way, ito kaya nabanggit din dito, kasi syempre, di ba yung capital structure ng mga companies, they have liabilities and equity. And of course, yung possibility na gaano kataas yung kanilang interest rate na binabayaran, or how much funding could they get if they ever need additional funds to continue their operations or to pursue yung kanilang mga future plans. Okay? Studying information about the bond issuer, such as potential changes in its credit rating. Okay, additional information then. Okay. Makikita naman to normally sa financial statements ng mga businesses, especially yung mga listed sa stock exchange and public corporations, considered as public corporations. For stocks, fundamental analysis uses revenues. Ayan, tinitingnan gaano kalaki yung kanilang kinikita, earnings, ganun din. Or, normally itong earnings more on, what do you call that? Yung profit margin na, And then yung future growth, pwede mo makita to, historically, gaano ka tumataas yung kanilang earnings or revenues or net profit in the last few years. Pero pwede din itong makita kapag, nag-announce yung company na kanilang plans in the succeeding years, diba? May, mag-open ba sila ng panibagong branches, mag-introduce ba sila ng panibagong products, or may upgrades ba silang gagawin. Ayan. So, yun yung mga pwede maging basis naman itong future growth. Okay? At ang increases in revenues and earnings, of course, kapag nagkaroon ng changes sa, scale-up operations, in a way, yun na rin, kapag may plan sila na magdagdag ng branches, magdagdag ng stores, mag-increase ng production volume. So, ayun. Return on equity, magkano ang, dividends na natatanggap ng stakeholders, tapos yung compared yung book value or yung valuation ng company with regards to the number of shares na sumasuporta dun sa business. So, yun, another thing na pwedeng tingnan to check itong return on equity. Okay. Later, I think we have financial ratios. So, i-discuss din naman natin yun. Profit margin, so yung pinakang baba na, gaano ka yung rate ng profit when you compare it to the total revenue of the company. Okay? Kumbaga, sa bawat piso na kinikita nila or nabebenta nila or natatanggap nila from customers, magkano doon yung mismong profit or kumbaga yung net na ng expenses ng business. Okay? And other data to determine a company's underlying value and potential for future growth. Okay? All of this data is available in a company's financial statements. Yes. Yung financial statements, of course, you have your statement of comprehensive income, you have your statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity, you have your statement of cash flow, saka yung notes to financial statements. Ang pinaka-bulk nung financial statements would be the notes. Kasi, nagpo-provide ng additional information explaining yung items sa yung face ng financial statements. Yung mga figures doon. And then, nagpo-provide ng additional information with regards to management decisions, especially kung siya ay makaka-affect sa decisions ng stakeholders nila. Okay? Especially yung external users ng financial information. Like existing shareholders, potential shareholders, suppliers, customers, regulatory agencies. Ganyan. Okay? Available naman yung information. Fundamental analysis is used most often for stocks, but it is useful for evaluating any security, from a bond to a derivative. If you consider the fundamentals from the broader economy to the company details, you are doing fundamental analysis. Okay. So you have to highlight this one. From the broader economy to the company details. Kasi kumbaga, kailangan mo talagang i-check against the industry yung company performance. Para malaman mo kung pag kinumpare mo ba siya dun sa karamihan ng same or ng similar companies, is it doing just as well, or is it doing better, or is it doing worse? Okay? Para malaman mo kung worth it ba na mag-invest dyan sa particular company na yan, or, might as well choose the others in the same industry. Investing and fundamental analysis. So an analyst works to create a model for determining the estimated value of a company's share price based on publicly available data. Okay, this value is only an estimate, the analyst's educated opinion of what the company's share price should be worth compared to the current market price. Okay, some analysts may refer to their estimated price as the company's intrinsic value. Okay, if you remember yung yung case ng GameStop. Okay, ang nangyari kasi dun sa GameStop, this is a US company, and then publicly traded sa, of course, stock exchange in the US. I'm not sure if it's NYSE. Okay, so bali ang nangyari kasi merong mga fund managers or hedge fund managers na they're trying to undervalue, itong GameStop. And then, of course, there's a group sa Reddit, Reddit community. And what they did is that, of course, they do not like these fund managers trying to undervalue a certain stock. So, ang nangyari naman, itong mga individual investors, of course, although maliliit lang sila na investors, syempre, nagsama-sama, lahat sila nagkaisa na, i-hype yung share price ng GameStop. So, yun, ang nangyari naman, edi biglang taas, And then, of course, we're going to discuss this in more detail later on. Pero, kumbaga, pahapyaw lang, ano nangyari. So, within a week, parang yung, tawag dito, yung price ng shares ng GameStop is biglang lumaki, more than 100 times, I think. And then, of course, syempre, hindi, kumbaga, although, yes, they're trying to show na the actual value of GameStop is above yung sa valuation ng hedge fund managers. Pero yung naging actual current price niya because, these individual investors, group of individual investors are, tried to hype it up. So, ayun, kapag hindi rin naman kagandahan na sobrang na-overvalue naman, yung price ng company. Na yung actual valuation niya, when you compare it to the actual assets ng company, at tapos, of course, you have to compare din yung liabilities and equity, you have to see yung kanyang net assets, makikita mo sobrang laki din naman nung naging difference, which is, in a way, it's also a bad thing. Kasi, di ba, sobrang layo dun sa proper valuation sana nung company stock. Okay? So, ayun. Yun nga, kasi nga yung market, it's composed of many people na, of course, you have your knowledgeable investors, pero andun din yung mga investors na nakikiuso lang, nakikisabay lang sa kung ano ang hype, nakikisabay lang sa, sometimes no reason, nag-invest sa isang company for no apparent reason. Kumbaga, let's say, nag-mini-mini mo lang. Okay, pumikit ako, tinuro ko yung listahan, dun tumapat yung daliri ko. Okay, mga sometimes, no, kumbaga nonsense reasons. And then, of course, you also have investors na masyadong emotional. Okay, nagpapadala sa damdamin pag pag nagde-decide. So, let's say, nagkaroon ng news article about a particular company. Okay, tapos, of course, bad press, kunwari. So, sabi, oy, boycott natin tong company na ito, ganyan. Ayan. So, binenta ang shares of stock kasi they don't want to be a shareholder of that company anymore. Okay? Tapos, later on, it was proved naman pala na, it's probably, a lie or something na hindi lang properly explained yung situation, but the company was able to turn it around. Ayan. So, mga ganyang instances. Okay. So, mabanggit lang. Okay. If an analyst, wait, ba't ko nga ba binanggit yun? Okay, binanggit ko siya kasi nga, sometimes yung market price ng isang stock dun sa actual market is hindi siya yung true valuation niya kasi nga you have players in the market na ganon. Una, no actual reasoning behind their investment decisions, and then secondly, yung mga investors na nagde-depend sa emotions or naha-hype ng mga articles or nadadala rin ng mga, let's say, fake news or fake articles. So, in a way, yung market price ng isang company, it's possible na siya yung proper valuation niya, but it's also possible na maging undervalued or overvalued yung market price niya because of those types of investors or situations in the market. Okay? And so moving on, if an analyst calculates the stock value, that the stock's value should be significantly higher than the stock's current market price, they may publish a buy or overweight rating for the stock. Okay, so in this sense, pag nabasa ito ng investor, okay, bibili pala ako dapat niyang stock na yan. So this acts as a recommendation to investors who follow that analyst. So, normally, before you follow an analyst naman, i-check mo ano yung mga previous na articles niya, and then, did it go according to his analysis? Okay? So, kung normally, kung ano yung sinabi niyo before, nangyayari naman, or the company stock reacted the way he predicted, or the analyst predicted, edi go, di ba? You can follow that particular analyst, and whenever he issues an article, a recommendation, edi sundin mo, okay? But for the most part, there's also possibility kasi na merong mga analysts na sometimes nasasway din ng, personal interest nila, or they probably have clients na kailangan ng ibenta yung ganitong stock, so they're trying to hype up that particular stock para magkaroon ng buyers. So, merong mga ganong possibilities. And actually, those are, considered crimes in other countries. Kasi para minamanipulate kasi ang market. Okay, market manipulation is a big no-no. Okay? Where are we? If the analyst calculates a lower intrinsic value than the current market price, the stock is considered overvalued and a sell or underweight recommendation is issued. Okay. So, ito naman yung kabaliktaran, kapag tingin ng analyst is overvalued yung stock, so, benta mo na kasi since siya ay overvalue, mas mataas yung market price compared dun sa kanyang supposedly a proper valuation, edi more likely than not, the market is going to react in a way na yung current price is bababa, para pumantay siya dun sa kanyang proper valuation. Kaya yung recommendation ng analyst is sell. Ibenta mo na hanggat hindi pa siya bumababa dun sa kanyang proper valuation. Kasi kapag bumaba yan, syempre, loss yun, di ba? Ayan. Investors who follow these recommendations will expect that they can buy stocks with favorable recommendations because such stocks should have a higher probability of rising over time. Likewise, stocks with unfavorable ratings are expected to have a higher probability of falling in price. Okay? Di ba kapag favorable recommendation, so possibility ng market price is tataas siya. Okay? And then kapag unfavorable naman, edi syempre, pababa yung expected market price movement. Such stocks are candidates for being removed from existing portfolios or added as short position. Okay, kapag unfavorable, normally, di ba, benta nyo na. So, kapag binenta kasi, di syempre, tanggal na siya dun sa sa portfolio investment portfolio ng investor, right? This method of stock analysis is considered to be the opposite of technical analysis, which forecasts the direction of prices through an analysis of historical market data, such as price and volume. Okay, so yung technical analysis more on price and volume siya, di ba? Kasi dun sa chart, kita mo lang yung movements ng price, tapos sa baba, kita mo naman yung transaction volume. Again, yung transaction volume is gaano karami ang buyers and sellers during that particular period. Okay? Okay, next we have quantitative and qualitative fundamental analysis. So the problem with defining the word fundamentals is that it can cover anything related to the economic well-being of a company. So they obviously include numbers, yung mga nasa financial reports or financial statements like profit, revenue and profit, but they can also include anything from a company's market share to the quality of its management. Okay. So, of course, normally, yung mga with figures, with monetary values, yun yung quantitative, okay? And then yung other things naman na walang valuation, edi that's your qualitative, okay? Wait lang, basahin natin. The various fundamental factors can be grouped into two categories, quantitative and qualitative. The financial meaning of these terms isn't much different from their standard definitions. Pag quanti, related to information that can be shown in numbers and amounts. Qualitative, relating to the nature or standard of something, kagaya nga ng management, rather than to its quantity. Okay, quality of management, efficiency no kanilang utilization of budgets, efficiency in their operations, ganyan, reliability ng kanilang suppliers, and then yung kanilang customer satisfaction. Okay, so those are in a way part of the qualitative portion ng fundamentals. In this context, quantitative fundamentals are hard numbers. They are the measurable characteristics of a business. That's why the biggest source of quantitative data is the financial statements. Revenue, profit, assets, and more can be measured with great precision kapag nakabase ka dun sa FS. The qualitative fundamentals are less tangible. They might include the quality of a company's key executives. Reliable ba? Competent ba yung mga taong nakaupo sa, board of directors or board of trustees ng company? Its brand name recognition, kumbaga bad press or good press, patents, meron ba silang ganyan for their products? And proprietary technology. Okay, so currently most companies are moving with the advent of technology and with the advances in technology, especially yung mga online presence, nagkakaroon na sila ng mga sariling website, pages, ganyan. And then they interact with their customers or with other parties through online formats or digital formats. Okay, so the qualitative neither qualitative nor quantitative analysis is inherently better, okay? Many analysts consider them together. Kasi although makita mo, maganda naman yung numbers nila dun sa FS, pero yung kanilang, quality ng management, efficiency ng kanilang operations, kumbaga maraming questions, yung customer satisfaction nila, maraming nagrereklamo na, ganyan. Responsibility nila with the environment, di ba yung mga nagtatapon ng waste improperly, makakasira na ng kalikasan, mga ganyan. So, those could affect, yung kanilang future performance in the market, mga company ito. Kaya, in a way, talagang binibigyan rin ng weight yung mga qualitative factors, okay? Or qualitative fundamentals. Okay, so ito yung hindi naman types, pero qualitative fundamentals to consider, examples. So, merong 4 key fundamentals that analysts always consider when regarding a company, okay? So, ito na, business model, yung kaunahan. What exactly does the company do? This isn't as straightforward as it seems. If a company's business model is based on selling fast food chicken, is it making its money that way, or is it just coasting on royalty and franchise fees? Okay, so titingnan mo alin yung bulk ng kanilang revenue source. Franchise fees and royalties ba, or yung mismong sale ng chicken? Okay? Currently, 'di ba, dito mo makikita yung mga online scams, mga multi-level marketing, kasi dito mo makikita, that's a business model, yung source ng kanilang income. Saan sila kumikita? Sa binebenta ba nila na product or services? Or dun sa membership fees na kinokollect nila from new members? Okay, dun mo makikita kung MLM ba yan or scam ba yung business na yan or investment na yan. So, yan. Secondly, competitive advantage. A company's long-term success is driven largely by its ability to maintain a competitive advantage. So, kumbaga parang, something unique to the company and keep it. So, powerful competitive advantages such as Coca-Cola's brand name, Microsoft's domination of the personal computer operating system, create a moat around a business, allowing it to keep competitors at bay and enjoy growth and profits. When a company can achieve a competitive advantage, its shareholders can be well rewarded for decades. Okay, so kumbaga, very unique to the company, not easily copied by others. So, ayun. Pang kanila lang. And then number 3, management. Again, this is under qualitative fundamentals. Some believe that management is the most important criterion for investing in a company. In a way, it makes sense. Even the best business model is doomed if the leaders of the company fail to properly execute the plan. Okay, maganda yung business model, pero yung mga taong nag-i-implement is unreliable naman, incompetent, or let's say, merong mga personal agenda, mas inuuna yung makukuha nila compared dun sa magiging growth ng business. So, have to check din, yung integrity ng mga taong nakaupo sa management. While it's hard for retail investors to meet and truly evaluate managers, you can look at the corporate website and check the resumes of the top brass and the board members. How well did they perform in prior jobs? Makikita mo naman yung history nila. Normally, kayang-kayang i-google. Have they been unloading a lot of their stock shares lately? Okay. Normally, ito para dun sa mga companies na nagbibigay din ng shares as compensation to their employees. Okay? Kung sila mismo nagbebenta na ng kanilang shares of stock, anong ibig sabihin nun? May possibility na bumagsak yung prices ng company na yan. Okay, so in a way, binabantayan din ito. Kaya binabantayan itong last one. If they keep or, if they retain holding the shares of the company, then syempre, ang expectation is maganda pa rin yung performance ng company kasi hindi pa nila binibenta. Kumbaga may tiwala pa sila na mag-appreciate ang value or market price ng company. Okay? Lastly, number 4, corporate governance. Policies in place within an organization denoting the relationships and responsibilities between management, directors, and stakeholders. Paano ba i-govern yung kabuuan ng company? It's not just the management or the leaders. Pati, kumbaga, tawag doon, damay-damay na yung relationship nila with the middle managers, the directors, and then of course you have your employees, and then the other stakeholders. Okay, hindi lang shareholders, stakeholders din, like yung mga suppliers, customer din, of course government, regulatory agencies, nagko-comply ba sa tax laws and to all other laws ng, ng country kung saan sila nandun. Okay? These policies are defined and determined in the company charter and its bylaws. Normally, may mga manual or policy handbook na mga companies. along with corporate laws and regulations. You want to do business with a company that is run ethically, and of course, meron na silang established policies na sinusunod in case na merong isang certain situation na mag-arise. Okay? Unlike dun sa mga bago pa lang na businesses, di ba, na common, wala man lang kayong policy kung paano nyo i-handle yung isang certain situation. Okay? But for the most part naman, bago maging publicly listed sa stock exchange yung isang company is mahabang proseso din talaga, and may mga bagay na kailangan silang patunayan din naman doon sa regulatory authorities. So anyway, kaya nga gatekeeper din ang regulatory agencies to protect the interest ng public investors. Okay? You want to do business with a company that is run ethically, fairly, transparently, and efficiently. Particularly note whether management respects shareholder rights and shareholder interests. So make sure their communications to shareholders are transparent, clear, and understandable. Again. So kumbaga yun nga, the relationship between management and the stakeholders. Na maayos ba yung communication? If you don't get it, it's probably because they don't want you to. Okay, meron mga management din naman na for some information needs to be confidential, but for the most part, the stakeholders have to inform them of, relevant information as long as it's not going to adversely affect yung situation ng company. Okay? It's also important to consider companies' industry, customer base, market share nila among firms, industry-wide growth, competition, regulation, and business cycles. Meron ba silang peak season or, evenly throughout the year lang ba ang operations nila? Learning about how the industry works will give an investor a deeper understanding of the company's financial health. Okay? Next, quantitative naman tayo. Financial statements. Yan. Source ng quantitative fundamentals to consider. So, yung FS, yan yung medium by which a company discloses information concerning its financial performance. Dyan makikita ng general public din kung ano na bang naging performance ng company. Profitable ba or hindi? Tapos, magkano na lang yung kanilang, assets, magkano pa yung kanilang hawak na cash, magkano pa yung kanilang receivables, properties nila, magkano ang kanilang utang, magkano ang, funded, capital funded by shareholders. Okay? Followers of fundamental analysis use quantitative information gleaned from FS to make investment decisions. The three most important financial statements, income statement, balance sheet. Yung balance sheet, tinatawag din siya na statement of financial position. Tapos yung ikatlo is the cash flow statements or yung sources and uses ng cash ng company. Balance sheet, dito mo makikita yung assets, mga ari-arian, properties ng business, and then you have your liabilities, magkano pa ang kanilang utang, and then yung equity, magkano yung, in-invest sa kanila ng mga, what do you call it, shareholders, okay? At a particular point in time. So, normally, year-end yan. So, yung figures na makikita nyo sa balance sheet, that is as of the year-end or the reporting date lang. Okay, pwedeng may mga changes na nangyari from the reporting date and the current date. Okay, kasi merong lag ng konti. The balance sheet is named by the fact that a business financial structure balances in the following manner. Dapat yung total assets equal siya dun sa total liabilities and shareholders' equity. Kaya siya, balance sheet. Kailangan balance yung dalawang yan. Alright? So, pag tinignan mo kasi yung balance sheet, diyan mo makikita kung sobra-sobra na ba ang utang ng business. Kasi baka mamaya kapag, mas malaki pa yung liabilities compared to shareholders' equity, it's possible na baka mamaya magkaroon ng problems, baka hindi na kayanin ng business na magbayad ng utang. Okay? So, in that sense, it's not a good thing to see. Okay? Tapos, of course, that's not true all the time naman. Kasi in the case of financial institutions like banks, normal na ang liabilities inaabot ng 80 to 90% ng total. Tapos yung equity nila is 10 to 20% lang. Okay, it will depend on the industry din. Okay? Income statement, edi makikita mo dyan yung revenues, magkano yung sales ng company, tapos babawas nila lahat ng expenses na ginastos nila, tapos makikita mo doon yung net profit or loss ng company. So, makikita mo dito sa income statement, edi yung profitability ng company. Kumikita ba yan or hindi na? Okay. Statement of cash flow, sa makikita naman dito, ay di saan napunta ang cash at saan nanggagaling ang cash. Okay, merong 3 activities. You have your investing, financing, and operating. Pinaka-important dito yung operating. Itong investing, saan galing ang cash? Pag sinabing investing, bumili ka ba ng non-current assets, mga machineries, equipment, vehicles, or binenta nyo na ba yung mga luma nyo na ganyan, lumang, machinery, vehicles, building, okay, mga ganon. Okay, yun yung cash movement from investing activities. Okay, pwedeng cash inflow kapag binenta mo yung mga properties na yan. Pwedeng cash outflow kapag yung business ang bumili, syempre, nung mga properties na yan or assets na yan. Cash from financing naman, edi either nangutang ang business or nagbayad ng utang or tumanggap ng investment from, shareholders or nag-reacquire ng mga stocks nila from their shareholders. Okay? So, yan. Depending on that, pwedeng cash in din siya or cash out sa company. Okay, tapos itong last operating cash flow, pinaka-important nga, cash generated from day-to-day business operations. Okay? Kumbaga yung natatanggap nila from their customers, magkano yung binabayad nila to their suppliers, ganyan. Okay? So, kumbaga ito yung bulk nung operations talaga ng business. The cash flow statement is important because it's very difficult for a business to manipulate its cash situation. Okay, kasi mayroong bank recon din tayong tinatawag. Okay? There's plenty that aggressive accountants can do to manipulate earnings, but it's tough to fake cash in the bank kasi may certification din na hinihingi from the bank kung magkano ba talagang cash ng company during that particular reporting period. For these reasons, some investors use the cash flow statement as a more conservative measure of a company's performance. Okay? Kasi kumbaga naka-tie up sa cash ng company. At yung cash kasi yung normally ginagamit sa operations. Either, tatanggap nga pa from the customers and ginagamit pambayad ng utang or pambayad sa suppliers. Okay? Fundamental analysis relies on the use of financial ratios. Later, meron tayong separate na discussion on that. Drawn from data on corporate financial statements to make inferences about a company's value and prospects. Okay, yung concept ng intrinsic value. Pag sinabi mong intrinsic, parang, after considering all these factors, yun yung sa tingin mo ay proper valuation ng security na yon or ng investment na yon. Okay? One of the primary assumptions of fundamental analysis is that the current price from the stock market often does not fully reflect the value of the company. Okay, so it's either undervalued or overvalued daw. The second assumption is that the value reflected from the company's fundamental data is more likely to be closer to the true value of the stock. Okay? So, kumbaga, kaya ginagamitan ng fundamental analysis, diba? Fundamental data from the FS normally. And of course, yung qualitative fundamentals din. So, considering that, kumbaga you have your base na, yung quantitative data. And then, take into account the qualitative data. So, yan. Pwede mong i-adjust up or down yung true valuation ng stock. Okay? Yan. Ang tawag doon sa hypothetical true value na yon is intrinsic value. However, It should be noted that this usage of the phrase intrinsic value means something different in stock valuation than what it means in other contexts such as options trading. Okay, so hiwalay pa yun. Option pricing uses a standard calculation for intrinsic value. However, analysts use various complex models to arrive at the intrinsic value of a stock. There is not a single generally accepted formula for arriving at the intrinsic value of a stock. Okay? So, ito, for example, yung company stock is $20. After extensive research on the company, diba? Extensive. Matrabaho yan. Okay? Normally, mga individual investors, yung mga kagaya lang natin, we don't exactly do that. I've never done that. Okay? Pero normally, we just rely on, experts. Kapag nagre-release sila ng reports or recommendations, pero syempre, we don't follow them blindly din naman. We still check kung makatotohanan ba yung nakalagay nila dito sa report. Pag chinek ko ba to with the financial statements ng company, magja-jive ba? Or pareho lang ba yung makikita ko doon? Okay, so mga ganun. An analyst determines that it ought to be worth $24, so undervalued yung company stock. Tapos, another analyst does equal research, but determines that it ought to be worth $26. So, yung another analyst, $26 naman, yung sa tingin niya ay value ng company. So, again, it's kind of subjective, kasi for different analysts, iba-ibang weight yung binibigay nila for the particular information available sa kanila. So, yung kanilang valuation, sometimes magkakaiba din. Okay? Many investors will consider the average of such estimates and assume that the intrinsic value of the stock may be near 25. Okay, so kumbaga kinuha nila yung average price from the different analysts na nagsasabi. Often investors consider these estimates highly relevant information because they want to buy stocks that are trading at prices significantly below these intrinsic values. Kasi normally yung recommendation is to buy at kapag yung price ay nasa baba, or kapag yung stocks ay undervalued. Kasi pag undervalued, yung possibility, tataas pa yung price para pumunta siya dun sa kanyang fair valuation. Okay? So, third assumption sa fundamental analysis, in the long run, the stock market will reflect the fundamentals. Okay? Kumbaga, eventually, mag-a-adjust yung market price because of this analysis by the expert, mag-adjust yung market price to the true valuation. Okay? But then again, yung situation natin sa market, hindi lahat ay properly informed na investors. Merong mga, no reason for making decisions. And again, you have your emotional investors. Okay? And then you also have your investors na nasisway na mga hype ng other investors. Okay? So again, I don't think at any one point nagkakaroon ng true valuation ng isang company stock. Especially kung, maraming buyers and sellers or maraming holders nitong stocks na to. Okay? But for the most part, meron din naman na company talaga na properly valued. Especially yung mga almost hindi gumagalaw. Wait. That's not right. Okay, discuss din natin yung later on. Yung mga companies na halos hindi na gumalaw yung kanilang share holdings, share market price din, But of course, there's a reason for that. But again, it's possible na true valuation yon, but there's also the possibility na hindi. Okay? This is what fundamental analysis is all about. By focusing on a particular business, an investor can estimate the intrinsic value of a firm and find opportunities to buy at a discount. The investment will pay off when the market catches up to the fundamentals. But, it's more likely than not that it won't. Okay. Fast fact, one of the most famous and successful fundamental analysts is the so-called Oracle of Omaha, a nickname for Warren Buffett, who champions the technique in picking stocks. Okay. Marami pa pala. Konti na lang yan. Okay, criticisms ng fundamental analysis. Dalawa, biggest criticisms of fundamental analysis. Nagiba yung boses ko. Come primarily from two groups, so yung proponents ng technical analysis and believers ng efficient market hypothesis. Okay? Ito technical analysis is, again, for me, opinion ko, is more on short-term trading kasi siya. Fundamental analysis, you use it for, long-term. And then you have your efficient market hypothesis. Ang assumption nila dito kasi sa efficient market is that ang investors, they are all aware of the publicly available information that would help them make decisions. Tapos, of course, meron din assumption dito na kumbaga lahat sila sabay-sabay nakakatanggap ng information. Okay? But of course, that is not true. Minsan, of course, yung mga experts, yung mga medyo malapit dun sa mga companies or may relationships with the companies, mas nauuna sila na makatanggap ng information compared dun sa mga nasa baba or yung mga simpleng investor lang or maliliit na investor. Okay? So, technical analysis, na-discuss naman natin yan. So, skip na natin. Efficient market hypothesis, and banggit ko na rin naman, kung ano yung kanilang assumptions. So, example ng fundamental analysis, meron naman tayo nito kanina, yung si Coca-Cola. Okay? And then later, we'll be discussing financial analysis and financial ratios pa din naman. Okay? That's under ng fundamental analysis, quantitative. Okay? So, itong example niya dito, Coca-Cola, in-assess ang value ng assets, income streams, debts, and liabilities. Okay? So, yan, anong nakita nila? Noting that Coca-Cola's revenue grew by 41% in the second quarter of 2021, while the wider beverage industry saw only 25% revenue growth. Tapos, ang sabi, a fundamental analyst could infer that the Coca-Cola company is better positioned to make gains in the current market environment than the average company in the same industry. But when you think about it, Coca-Cola kasi is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the leading tawag dito, beverage company naman. Sila naman talaga nauna. What are the steps in fundamental analysis? Evaluates individual companies by looking at the firm's financial statements and examining various ratios and other metrics. Okay? This is used to estimate a company's intrinsic value based on the revenue, profit, cost, capital structure, cash flows, and so forth. Okay? So, yung mga tinitingnan. Company metrics can then be compared with industry peers and competitors. Finally, these can be compared to the broader market or larger economic environment. Okay? So, yan nga. You have your company, you have your industry, and then you have the economy as a whole. Who uses fundamental analysis? Largely by long-term or value investors to identify well-priced stocks and those with favorable prospects or yung potential for growth. Okay? Equity analysts will also use fundamental analysis to generate price targets and recommendations to clients. Corporate managers and financial accountants will also use financial analysis to analyze and increase a firm's operating efficiency and profitability, so internal management na ito, and to compare the firm against the competition kasi gusto nilang mas pagbutihin pa yung kanilang performance. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most renowned value investors, is a promoter of fundamental analysis. Okay? So, any difference here from technical analysis? In technical, it does not, dig under the hood of a company. Kasi nga, normally, tinitingnan niya yung history ng movements and nagtatry na discover ng pattern with, the price of the stock. Kaya yun nga, meron silang nakikita na support level saka resistance level. And again, normally for short term. Ang technical, fundamental is for long term. Okay? Lobat na agad. Okay, does fundamental analysis always work? Not necessarily. Like any other investment strategy or technique, fundamental analysis is not always successful. Kasi nga, may mga other factors pa din naman na they could affect, yung particular movement ng isang company or company stock. Okay? Investors and analysts will frequently use a combination of fundamental, technical, and quantitative analysis when evaluating a company's potential for growth and profitability. Okay? So, ayan. Halos isang oras na rin pala. Alright, so dito na natapos yung discussion natin about fundamental analysis. Yung next one would be financial analysis. And then you have your financial ratios and then valuation ng investment. Alright, that's it for this one. Thanks and bye.